about that with the recent ban on triclosan. So triclosan is the active ingredient in antibacterial soaps that will be phased out in 2017 based on this FDA ban. It's also another endocrine disruptor, but in the environment, it's contributing to antibiotic resistance. So it's run off into lakes and causing all kinds of crazy stuff to happen to marine life. And there's all these other all these other negative effects that we're not realizing. We talk about our gut microbiome, but we have a microbiome on the surface of our skin that is there and designed to protect us from bad bugs, from inflammation, from allergenic compounds.
Battling food in your body doesn't work. You want to love and accept yourself. And because you're insatiable, you want results too. And wouldn't you know, you bring the same intensity to your life, wanting to maximize your time, potential, and experiences you have here on this beautiful and wondrous planet Earth. Fair warning, it will be a roller coaster, but for those insatiable, that's your prime time to thrive. We're here to say yes to the hunger of wanting it all. I'm your co-host, Ali Shapiro, a health coach who helps people end the losing battle of dieting and find a truce with food.
And I'm Juliette Berg, nutritionist, fitness expert, and the co-owner of Unite Fitness Studio franchise.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 52 of the Insatiable Podcast. Today we have author and my dear friend, Jolene Hart, who's going to talk about her new book, Eat Pretty Every Day. Today, we're going to discuss with Jolene her own story as a top beauty editor for InStyle Magazine. And despite having access to every beauty opportunity, from products to facials, struggled with cystic acne. Then, how she discovered beautiful skin starts with your fridge, not at your dermatologist or the drugstore aisle, and tips to get started today, especially to support your skin in the upcoming winter. And lastly, how beauty is about your body's ability to also detoxify naturally, the surprising place scientists discovered this happens in your body, and the top 5 ingredients to avoid in your personal care products so you can detox much better and support prevention of serious illnesses. I also had a lot of questions for Jolene on some other environmental tips that she gave that I think will be really surprising and helpful to all of you. A little bit more about Jolene. Jolene is a health coach certified by the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, a former magazine beauty editor, and founder of the pioneering beauty coaching practice, Beauty is Wellness. She is the author of Eat Pretty, a seasonal guide to looking and feeling beautiful using nutrition and self-care, as well as the companion journal, Eat Pretty, Live Well, and the new book we're going to discuss today, Eat Pretty Every Day. At the heart of Jolene's work is her desire to empower women with knowledge of their own ability to shape their lifelong beauty and health with the healing powers of food and self-care. You guys are going to love this episode today. Welcome, everybody. We are here today with Jolene. Jolene, I am so excited. This is your third book. And what listeners may or may not know, but you and me and Alexis, who is a tea connoisseur and has just done a tea line for La Colombe, we used to meet like when we were both starting out our careers. Do you remember? And we would walk.
Of course I remember. Walk and talk.
Yeah, we were like we joked that we were like the people in the suburbs who go to the mall and walk, but we would walk down to the Schuylkill River and just kind of talk about our challenges. And now here you are on your third book. Can you believe this?
You are. And I also have to talk about, like, Julia and I went to nutrition school together. We used to walk and talk back in the day between classes. So here we are. It's kind of
I know, it's full circle. So strange.
I had no idea you guys were at IIN at the same time.
Same class. And I was saying before, like, we all used to live blocks from each other, the three of us. And now we're quite separate. But I think it's so cool because we're all doing different things.
I know. Oh my God, I had no idea. So we want to talk today about Eat Pretty Every Day, but I want you to first tell everyone how you wrote Eat Pretty, your first book, and how you came to this conclusion about beauty being from the inside out. Because this is a revolutionary concept. We're flipping the script here.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen overnight, that's for sure. I, for the better part of a decade, dealt with skin issues, including cystic acne. So for those of you who have experienced it, you know exactly how physically painful it can be. But for those of you who haven't, it's those really big blemishes under your skin that kind of hang out for weeks at a time and don't go away. So cystic acne, inflammatory acne, which is kind of the regular stuff, and then eczema, which is another allergic inflammatory rash on your skin. So all three of those for a really long time. And the ironic part was that for most of that time, I was working as a beauty editor. So InStyle Magazine, I had gotten this amazing job that I really thought was my dream job. But from the very start, I felt like I had to hide my skin because I was representing my magazine. I felt like I was representing my women readers, and I was totally embarrassed about not knowing what to do for my skin. So while I was a beauty editor, I kind of mobilized my resources, and one of the perks of that job is that you get any product you want free. You can go see any facialist, we're like celebrity facialists.
Ooh.
Terms, you can get expert opinions. So you better believe I was doing all of that as much as I could, as much as my job would allow. Is just kind of getting people's help, people who were experts in the industry who might be able to help me. And everybody had a different idea. None of them were effective, and none of them presented a long-term cure for what I was dealing with. Obviously, I had been on prescriptions for years, topical and antibiotic for acne. I had done everything over the counter. Regular facials, and came down to one facial that I had, and the facialist took off all of my many layers of makeup because I got really good at concealing everything. And she said, wow, your skin is so much worse than it looks. And I felt so sick because that's what I was saying in my head. In the mirror, you look kind of okay because you're wearing a lot of foundation. But when I take off my makeup at night, my skin looked horrible. And I would wake up in the morning and at a sleepover at a friend's house, the first thing I would do would be put makeup on my face because I was so embarrassed for people to see what I looked like. And it was horrible. And so I was working as a beauty editor during all of this. And as a little bit of a backstory, my mom was really holistically minded. She started a food co-op when I was a kid. She was a nurse, and she always taught me that food was powerful, that it was medicine. And I always kind of thought there was a connection between food and what was going on in my body. But everywhere I turned, people kept saying, no, there's no diet acne link. There's nothing there. Quit trying to pursue it.
And were those dermatologists saying that? This is important for people to realize because the quote unquote authorities, right? So were they dermatologists telling you this?
100%. And if you know this, there were a few flawed studies on the diet acne link that came out in the 1960s that made their way into dermatology textbooks. So a lot of derms were trained on this information, which has since been debunked. It's not true information that there's no link, but there are still derms and other experts to this day who will claim that there is no, food acne, diet acne link. And I've seen it even on national news programs that I'm yelling at the TV.
Think about the money that is being made on products, right? Acne medication and other kinds of topical products that are being sold at I feel like whenever I've gone to a dermatologist, it's a lot of here, want to buy this or want to take that, or this will help rejuvenate your skin and you'll be younger. And it's always about spending money on a product.
I also think though it's the lens. I see this with a lot of people who debate different issues from skin to colon cancer to everything. It's well, I know people who have read the literature and know this inside and out, and they will tell you there is no diet link. And I'm well, I'm interested in the information that's not there. Right? Have we even looked and tested this? Have we even given it a fair shot compared to, I was on Accutane. Oh my God, there's a class action lawsuit now. I tried antibiotics too, which Jolene, now that we know about skin, it's I cringe at the antibiotics I tried. But so it's not about what's necessarily in the studies or even, you need that and flawed studies, but no one has studied this. So how can you say it doesn't exist yet? People like Jolene and me have had so much skin success. Do we not count? Is that not a data point?
But I think, looking back, being in my late teens and early 20s, I knew I wasn't the expert and I trusted the experts.
Yeah, of course.
And it wasn't until, maybe because I was a journalist, it took a few years to realize hey, I'm pretty good at getting to the bottom of questions and stories. So why don't I take my journalistic experience and apply that to this major issue and question in my life? I think there's enough there that I can find something. And there were no books on it at the time, but I just I knew there was something there, and I was getting enough clues that I ended up taking a step back from my job and kind of, becoming freelance as a writer and using a lot of my time to explore that diet acne link, and then going to school at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which really boosted my confidence and the fact that I had a platform here, that there were thousands, if not more, women who really needed this information that didn't have it and were not getting it at least from the media world where I came from.
Yeah. And so where did you start with nutrition? How did that actually play a role in your acne dissipating? How did that all?
Well, it started with myself as the guinea pig. So looking at what I could change in my own diet, cutting out sugar, cutting out random ingredients that I thought might be causing allergies in my skin, exploring maybe different deficiencies that I could have had. I didn't learn until much later about things like balancing my blood sugar and, all the things that really ended up making everything come full circle to me. But just kind of starting out, I even did a detox with a woman who was doing Chinese medicine. I kind of just explored all these different modalities and got really into reading about Ayurveda and their approach. And that made so much sense to me. And then, just kind of tried to interview experts in all of these fields and pick their brain about, what do you know about skin? I know no one cares about skin, but tell me, I really want to know, what does Ayurveda say about skin? Or what does Chinese medicine say about skin? And what does, genomics tell you about, what your skin does and everything? Just try to apply little tidbits there and bring them all together that, eventually would inform what I was doing, but became an even bigger idea to inform what I do as a coach.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can touch on this more, but your skin says a lot about your health. When you look in the mirror and you see, not just blemishes, but circles under your eyes, puffiness in your face, slight swelling. There's so much that goes beyond just having acne.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I feel like everyone has something that they would love to change, whether it's, for example, circles under your eyes, like you said, and they're really searching for that perfect, holy grail concealer that's going to make them, go away for life. But it's not the concealer. It's, like you said, what's happening in your body. So very much your skin, I think, is a barometer for what else is going on in your body. And I guess I kind of always knew that, but it took kind of stepping up and being empowered enough to explore it and then shout that message from the rooftops, because I think we all know that about ourselves. We weren't being given the resources to really understand it.
Yeah. And did you find that you had anything hormonal going on, or did you have food allergies?
Absolutely.
Well, I know it's multifactorial, but what for you did you find was the thing that had caused you to have such bad cystic acne?
Yeah, well, I think probably if I look back, it started as a hormonal thing, but because I had taken antibiotics for a while, it then became a gut dysbiosis thing. Because I had food allergies that were undiagnosed, it was more of a gut issue thing and an inflammatory thing. So I had the inflammation, I had the hormonal imbalances, I had inability or impaired ability to detoxify, a lot of things happening that I could see snowballed from around the time when I was 17 or 18 and maybe had some hormonal stuff. It just became a bigger and bigger elephant. And when I finally tackled it, it took, quite a number of years to kind of peel back all those layers. But just over the course of 1 year, I saw so much of a change just from changing my diet and my lifestyle.
Yeah. And I want, we have so many different topics on this podcast, and I feel like we're going to have to start a drinking game every time we say blood sugar, but it'll be like kombucha or filtered water, but for listeners, I think sometimes it could sound overwhelming, but everything pretty much in your health comes back to blood sugar and gut health. And I always like the visual of a DNA strand, they talk to each other, right? I was just reading how resistant starch, which is a prebiotic, if you have that, it can help blunt your blood sugar response for 3 days because it helps the gut bacteria and all that stuff. So I want listeners to understand, what we talk about, this is all what Jolene is sharing in her book is totally in alignment. It's not but it's not anything extra. It's there's all these benefits. And I know a lot of people who come into Truths with Food, they obviously don't come, the main pain point isn't skin, but they come out and they're like, I didn't even realize my skin was looking so dull and I don't even need these products anymore. So I just wanted to point that out for people who are listening who think, oh, maybe I don't have a skin issue, or maybe or your skin, there's always potential to increase it, I think. Wouldn't you say that?
Absolutely. If, it might be something like you just happen to have some dry patches that are you're just irritated by them. You think they are happening because it's dry outside. And then you change your diet and you realize, hey, those dry patches actually went away, or those dark circles never came back again. And there's a lot of things you can change that maybe you don't even realize.
So Jolene's new book out is, so originally she wrote Eat Pretty, which is how to pretty much do the big picture of what she did. And what I love about
season. So each season kind of the shifting needs of your body and your beauty.
Yeah. And what I love about this book that is your third book out, it's called Eat Pretty Every Day, 365 Daily Inspirations for Nourishing Beauty Inside and Out, is that you break this down for daily things, which is so helpful for people when they're first approaching this. How did you decide to convert this into like a daily practice?
I mean, almost as soon as Eat Pretty came out and I started hearing from people who kept saying this approach to beauty is working. It's changing my life, but I need ideas. How do I keep this up? What smoothie should I make? What should I do for lunch? Or like, what's a good ritual to have before bed? And I kept wanting to reply to everyone's emails and give them individual advice, but that's not something that I ever had time to do. And I just kept thinking, I need to give people as many ideas as possible so they realize that one small change a day, as little as that, can make a huge impact over time if it's something that you adopt and it shifts the way that you live your life. So that's the goal, just to give you so many ideas.
And so we have winter coming up. And again, what you do with the book too, which I love, because getting in sync with the seasons, that harmony is such an important health metric. I think that no one talks about is like, let's match what we're doing with the season rather than trying to do the same thing all the time, right? Can we focus on winter since we're coming into winter? So you talk about hormones. What do you think is and underneath hormones is blood sugar control. So what are some of the things that you think we can do for wintertime to start to balance those hormones that you talk about in the book?
I feel like you're quizzing me and you have to tell me if
She is. She has the notes from your book.
Not quizzing.
I mean, specifically for winter, those good fats are amazing for your skin, but your body also makes hormones from those healthy fats. So you absolutely need to make sure you're having enough of those in your body. They're going to help to strengthen the cell membrane of your skin cells so that when you're hydrating yourself and you're drinking tea and you're having citrus that's very water rich, your body's going to retain that moisture better. So that's really important. And like you had mentioned earlier, we get our nutrition through absorption with fats. We need that to absorb other nutrition. So it's really important during the winter. Definitely you can amp that up this season.
I love that. In your book, I don't know if this was for the winter, I'm not that good, but you talked about with the citrus, with like lemon and lime rinds, like throwing those in your smoothie every once in a while. I thought that was an amazing tip because the bitters and how they help with digestion.
The bitter is so good, but it's a little less bitter that way. Yeah. So any organic citrus peel, throw it right in your smoothie. It's really good for cellulite prevention and for detoxification too, which is kind of a cool like secondary benefit. So
yeah. Do you drink smoothies in the winter?
That's the thing. I have trouble with it. I mean, I do, but definitely not every day because I don't love something cold in the morning. So if I'm making a smoothie, I know this is kind of gross, but I'm making it like room temperature. So I even keep like a room temperature pitcher of water and I use that instead of something cold from the tap. I know that's weird. Do you like to
I love that idea.
Drink room temperature water only. I can't drink water. It gives me a headache immediately.
I don't like
it. Sensitive to it. So room temp all the way.
Yeah, no, I love that idea.
Room temperature smoothies. I know, it's so gross. And also just like lots of ginger and spices and stuff that makes you feel warm, even though it's not temperature warm.
Yeah. So you mentioned water. And one of the things that I just love that you included in your book, because this is kind of where my learning edge is right now, is environmental toxins. Because I think they're harder to make tangible, right? Like we can look at food and we know how many hours of sleep we're getting. But I want to talk to you about some of the environmental tips that you gave because I thought they were amazing. First of all, I'm curious, do you filter your water? Because I do, and now I only buy filtered water even when I'm out to a restaurant, and I feel so guilty about the plastic, but I also am terrified of what I've learned about is in our water.
I know, it is terrifying. I do have a filter, and I'm actually, because we just moved into a new home, I'm in the market for something that's going to be like a whole house filter. It's on the top of my Christmas list.
So that's how important you think it is for skin.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I want for myself, but also for my family. It's so important. But absolutely, what we keep learning about what's in our water is pretty terrifying. And I want to be able to drink a glass of water and feel so good about it, rather than every time I take a sip thinking like, what am I actually consuming in this?
Yeah, I just love that you brought that up. Another thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the organic mattresses in your book, which I feel like that's like, if I ever hit the lottery, I would get.
You know what? I have an organic mattress, Allie, and it's because when I went to go buy a mattress, it was on sale because people weren't buying the organic ones. So they had them completely discounted. So it's like a Tempur-Pedic organic.
Why didn't you send an SOS out?
I got it years ago, but it was really interesting when I was at the store. That one was like marked down so much. So I was like, well, that's the one I would want. So it was just really exciting.
Wow,
maybe I got it when they weren't that popular. They're probably more popular now.
Maybe, yeah.
Do you use one, Jolene?
So my son has one. We've actually had our mattress for a really long time. It's kind of embarrassing. So when we buy again, I will absolutely be putting my foot down in that category. But as of now, I think we've had our mattress for like probably 6 years. Is that too long?
Which isn't that long. It sounds like a long time. A good mattress, I think, can last you around 10 years. I was just reading this, but I'm definitely due for one eventually. It's one of those things you don't think about,
I know, you really don't, but it is so important, especially because you spend so much of your life on it. And when you buy things brand new, and this includes furniture or rugs or anything, it kind of like off gases all of those chemicals. When it's new is the time that you really get the biggest exposure. Like when it's old, it's kind of like, sorry.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you. I'm not grilling you. I just really respect your expertise. So I'm more what do you think about? That's what I was thinking, because our mattress, I don't even know how old it is, but I was like, maybe we've already burnt, they're the worst.
It's old, it's not off gassing anymore. But I think about it this time of year in the winter, because your air quality is so poor. You don't have the windows open. You're recycling the same air over and over through your HVAC system. And depending on whether or not you have a good filter, there's just so much stuff in your air. So one of the pages in the book is all about bringing in more of those detoxifying indoor plants. There's even a page about creating your own like cold fighting room freshener to kind of get some of those essential oils into the air, because our air quality gets pretty poor in the winter.
I love that you included that, because I feel like a lot of people leave out the environmental factors, and they're pretty important. When we first moved here back to Pittsburgh, the air pollution here is horrible. It's one of the worst in the country. They have regulations. They're not enforced. The companies just pay fines. And we have Carnegie Mellon here, which is like this engineering school. And at the public library, you could get this air quality monitor. And I brought it home. I checked it out. And Carlos was like, oh my God, you're becoming that person. Well, right. That's what I thought. I was like, we are getting data here. And he was like, oh my God. But
poor Carlos.
Oh, he loves it. He loves it. No, but I see what he's saying. I don't want to become paranoid, but we put it in the room, and it was amazing. Like even when cars would drive by, how like if the windows were open, it would change the air quality.
Wow, you don't think about that.
Yeah.
I remember though, living in Brooklyn, like every couple of maybe even weeks, I would have to clean my windowsill, and like the blackest black soot would come off of my windowsill. So if you think about that, I'm sure I was breathing that in for years.
Well, and I think what was interesting in your story and what you talk about a lot in the book is being able to detox naturally, not doing crazy ass shit that people do. Although I used to do that, so no judgment.
Right. And I've tried it too. But
yeah. Do you think that that's effective?
I think maybe under the right guidance, it absolutely can be. I'm not the one to maybe guide someone through that, but I think day to day, there's so much that you can do to support detox.
Yeah, I think it's better to be doing it on the macro scale versus the micro. Like I'm just going to detox for 3 days versus why not incorporate small things daily that are helping your body to, eliminate toxins.
Yeah, doesn't it seem better to be doing it little by little than like build it up and then get rid
drastic,
of it all, and then get rid of it all? Like, let's just try to be a little more moderate about things.
Well, nature loves a slow and steady rate of change. And so I know a lot of people who've actually hurt themselves doing those kind of blueprint cleanses and those kind of things, because if you're really toxic and then do a detox, your body does not have the capacity to really process everything that, it's kind of going through. And then most people retox right away because it's unsustainable.
Yeah, and if your blood sugar is really sensitive, good luck just having juice for 7 days.
Will you talk more about blood sugar control with acne and skin, Juliet? Or Jolene, because you guys have J and J name.
I know. I'm sure we could both talk about it. But yeah, absolutely. When you have that really high blood sugar spike, body releases some hormones that actually cause blemishes to form. So there's a direct link there. And about, cortisol being released in the body as well, that being a stressful moment, a stressful situation. And when you have that high cortisol that's prolonged, that's incredibly inflammatory to the body as well. So any kind of inflammation is going to be a precursor to premature aging. So wrinkles and fine lines, blemishes, redness and sensitivity, not to mention, weight gain that you don't want, that's unwanted, low energy, all the things that come from having that low grade inflammation all the time. But the root of it, and a lot of where it starts, is that mismanaged blood sugar.
You mentioned blood sugar and hormones and that causing pimples to pop up. And the only time I ever get blemishes, and it's usually just one blemish, one pimple, is right before I get my period.
Yeah.
I get one right around my mouth, whether it be above my lip or on my chin, only one. And it's because of the changes in my body with my hormones.
It's just saying, hey, your period's coming. Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah. So,
slow down.
Sometimes people aren't paying attention to those, signs and symptoms of what your body's telling you a story.
Yep.
Yeah. Just to wrap up the environmental conversation, I love that you also mentioned the disinfectants of the counter. Do you have any favorite brands that you like? Because I feel like there's a lot of greenwashing.
There is, for sure.
Yeah, because I think beyond the book, everyone has to check out our website too, but you are such an expert in what brands are really green and clean and of beauty products rather than it's pretty. I've noticed that a lot of companies have caught on that people are looking for parabens and sulfates, but then you look at it's like you look around. I know, I'm like, I still can't pronounce 10 things on this list.
Yes, we can't forget it today to talk about makeup because that's my big thing I want to talk to you about today. So
that's awesome. But yeah, favorite brands, I really think Seventh Generation does a great job, and they use the Thymol is their disinfectant that kills 99.9% of germs. So it's derived from, the essential oil of the thyme plant. And I love that. I have, a little kid and I want to disinfect things sometime, or if I make, food that I want to make sure I've cleaned up after, I use that to disinfect. Other than that, I think you can use a lot of cleaners that don't have that disinfectant action, and you can still get things very clean. But yeah, I just think about, so many things touch your counters, your food, your hands, your kids, your pets. And if you have all those chemicals on your counters and your floors, you're constantly being exposed to them. So not to mention the fragrance that's added in all of them. And fragrance is a huge issue for our air quality and for the phthalate exposure that we get through fragrance.
Yeah, I sometimes get itchy. Like if we use Method. Do you think Method is?
Yeah, Method I think is maybe somewhere in the middle. They do use a fragrance that I'm not positive is completely natural. I think it's a mix of natural and synthetic, and it might be phthalate free, but I think that they're not totally as natural as maybe some other brands.
Then I'm going to switch. What about the Myers brand?
I think they're kind of the same. If you've ever noticed their fragrance is pretty strong, I think it might just be that their fragrance is maybe a mix of some naturals and some synthetics. But I think in terms of their cleaning agents, that they're on the natural side.
Okay, that's good to know. And because I think those are some common brands that just tend to be at Target and in Philly, there's all these city Targets now that I've noticed.
It's interesting. The cleaning company that we use for Unite, they use only all natural cleaning products. And so they're cleaning our studio with vinegar.
I love that though.
It's every time I come in after they clean, it just smells like sea salt and vinegar chips or something.
It's hard at a fitness studio. That's a real thing. You can't deal with smell, and you've got germs everywhere,
Yeah. So it's would you rather have sweaty, gross, gym smell or vinegar?
That's really hard.
Well, I think it brings up this article or this argument of not argument, but position of there's a difference between sterile and being clean. And what we're learning about the gut microbiome, I just learned yesterday that some of the latest developments, they used to think the liver detoxified everything. And now they know in terms of what we detoxify from our food, 50% of that happens in the gut.
But I know, isn't that so crazy?
I was talking to a client, she's who's a nurse practitioner, and she's we're starting over in terms of what we know. I'm we are. Like nobody knows that. Not that nobody knows anything. We're just in a huge exploratory phase, I guess. So
it's so exciting, but it's also like, I can't believe that we're living through all of this too.
I know. Well, you know what frustrates me is like you were saying, I just felt this connection. And I think, and I don't want to like single out that men don't have it because I think men are highly intuitive too, but I feel like women have this intuition and we've been made to think that we are crazy, right? I mean, there's been articles how we medicate women's feelings and women are dismissed as like, they come in with a pain and they're like, oh, you're just overreacting. Meanwhile, but the same guy would get, you know, an MRI and everyone would, not that MRIs are great for everything, but you know what I mean? Like it's, we've been taught to distrust our own experience. And that's a lot of the reasons that people underneath emotional eating and overeating, they may not see it on the surface, but it from a deep core issue that I've seen in my practice is a lot of self-doubt and lack of self-trust. And a lot of this stuff that like, I feel like everything, even though we're starting over, everything's kind of confirming that we need to live in harmony with nature. Like that's all that we keep getting confirmed by.
Yeah, I think we've been taught to distrust our bodies. And that's basically what you're saying, that the signs that our body is giving us they can't be right. They must be wrong and you can just cover them up. But like, that's the complete opposite because they've been designed to give us information and it goes from your skin to what your poop looks like to like all kinds of different things. I mean, you're getting signs all the time. So you should absolutely trust those. And I think women maybe need a little bit more encouragement and empowerment to know that like, if they have an instinct, they should follow it.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it that women most oftentimes will miss the symptoms of a heart attack because they don't trust the symptoms,
and
whereas a man
different.
would be like, something's wrong.
Well, they're also part of the problem is that most research has been done like around men, and so they're like, oh, they just discovered like 30 years ago that women, metabolize alcohol differently. And it's like, duh. And I just saw
bodies.
I just learned too. I don't know if you guys saw like in the news, but they basically were testing this male contraceptive and they had to stop it because men couldn't tolerate the side effects that were less.
That headline. Is that really true?
It is. And then if you look at the history of how they've tested birth control, it is disgusting. I mean, they did it to people in prison. They didn't know they were being tested. That's a whole other episode we'll have to do is like medical ethics, but not to kind of go down a rabbit hole. But I just thought it was interesting. Like men couldn't talk, and not that they should, right? But like we expect women to tolerate all these things and women react differently to things. Heart attacks in women, I think some of the most common symptoms are like nausea, right? So you think, oh, am I pregnant? I mean, that's what would be, versus, oh, I'm having a heart attack or I have the flu or something or food poisoning. But before we get to makeup, and we were talking about being able to detox well, and you were talking about your gut health. And I think a lot of people who have had acne issues, and I don't know, Juliet, if you ever had them enough, but I know Jolene and I both did antibiotics. And
fortunately, I never had any skin issues other than, like I said, the one pimple that pops up once a month.
Violins are playing across the unit.
I've been very, very fortunate to have clear skin, and I don't know what I can chalk that up to. And, my twin brother, he had horrible acne when we were kids. And the one difference between he and I is that I had zero dairy my whole growing up, and he had tons of dairy. So that's the only thing I can think of that's possibly why I had really clear skin versus he did not.
I bet that's at least a very strong factor.
Yeah. What are some of the top food allergies that you see for people that it's interfering with their gut health?
Oh, interfering with gut health, not just skin.
Or skin. No, everything.
Skin health? Okay. Yeah. I mean, dairy, absolutely. Soy is one that people don't think about, but a lot of people are allergic to soy. And then obviously gluten, but I guess now we're finding out that it might not be gluten. It's maybe some other proteins that are in wheat and gluten containing foods, but anything around that category that we're still learning more about.
Which is like the proteins, right? Like the sticky proteins, like in dairy, it's casein, and in wheat, it's gluten. So it's more like how the proteins that are in those foods.
But you know what also it is that I just learned about? Did you know that glyphosate, which is what Monsanto sprays on all their GMO foods, did you know that is registered as an antibiotic?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, it was patented as an antibiotic. And it's everything. Even if you're trying to...
So that's why you have to buy organic fruits and vegetables.
But even if you're eating organic, I mean, if you travel, I mean, it's just, sorry, I feel like,
No, but isn't it great that we know so much about how to build back our microbiome now? So we know we can't avoid being exposed to these kind of things, but we can be eating fermented foods. We can take a probiotic supplement. We can, make sure we're getting exposed to those kind of things to maybe balance it out a little bit better than we have the past several decades.
Yeah. And one of the things I just love about the book too is you give recipes, and everyone loves recipes. So if you're into recipes, they're in there. But you give ones that, like, I didn't realize that there was coconut kefir out here now because I can't do dairy.
Coconut kefir. Mm-hmm.
And so I want you really highlight the probiotic foods in the book. How do we know if we're not going to make them by ourselves? How do we know that there's really probiotics in the food?
I was just going to say that, like, for example, coconut kefir, because I was doing my research from my pre and probiotic challenge that I was doing for Unite. And a lot of products like coconut kefir, they're adding in a lot of like thickening agents and, like any kind of almond milk that you're going to find, it's often not just almonds of water, you're getting a whole slew of other things to keep it preserved and like to keep the texture right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is obviously look for a package that's going to say it's live, it's active, it has probiotic strains. You'll see some sort of labeling on the package. You want to make sure that it's something that's in the refrigerated section, because anything that's shelf stable has obviously been pasteurized and there's no more of those good bugs in there. And
would you say that goes for probiotic pills as well?
So it doesn't go for probiotic pills. I don't really understand how,
because some of them are refrigerated and some of them are on the shelf.
The one I always recommend to get the ones that are in the refrigerated section, because it's much better. It's much more of a guarantee that there is actually something live and active that's still in there after it's been shipped in the back of a truck that was 95 degrees. And like, I don't really understand how you do shelf stable probiotics like that. Like, I saw a probiotic tea bag to pour boiling water onto, and it was supposed to have probiotic benefits. And I'm just so perplexed at that, because that's not how I understand probiotics. So I just recommend getting the ones that stay live and active, that are refrigerated. And if it's a vegetable, for example, you want to look for the brining process. So salt, water, and then the ingredient. There's going to be no vinegar in there, which is not, you don't vinegar ferment something, you brine ferment, you lacto ferment it.
Yeah, I heard that Bubby's, which is, I just like saying the name, Bubby's. Bubby's is a really good brand for like
the sauerkraut and the pickles are amazing.
Yeah. In your book, you one of the things you talk about is raw sauerkraut. And I wanted to ask you, I feel like this is like, I'm so selfishly asking my own questions, but do you not heat that up at all? Like I don't know if I tell.
So good. Like, do you heat it up?
Well, I put it on really low because I'm like, maybe that, like, and just, I don't get it piping hot, but I get it just a little bit. And then I do throw in hot sausages with a little applesauce. That's a really quick dinner that I will make at night sometime.
That's awesome. Yeah. I imagine if it's super low heat, then it's not going to, do too much to destroy the bugs. But I always do it raw, in sandwiches, on salads, on green bowls. The crunch and the tangy flavor, it makes it for me. Like, it makes the whole dish for me.
I love that. So like adding it into a salad.
Oh yeah. And like, you can even, if you put enough of it, you barely even need dressing because you've got it flavored so much.
Did it take you a while to work up to that?
No. Well,
Jolene, you're looking at me like I'm an alien.
I mean, I guess I always say this to my clients too, like, start with a forkful, because if you start with a cup of it, you're going to feel it in your digestive system. Way too much.
Pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to sue the Insatiable podcast.
It's a medicinal dose.
For
I guess maybe it did take a while now that I think about it.
I'm just thinking, like, your taste buds do change, but
But I have people who come back and like have tried it for the first time and say, like, I'm craving this stuff now. Like, I can't get enough of it. It's like this taste I never had. We don't really taste that kind of fermented taste on our palates that much unless we go out and
Yes. I mean, the only sour food that a lot of people are getting in America is like sour candy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah. And our taste buds are meant to have all those different flavors of sweet and tangy and sour and spicy. So, you're satisfying your cravings a lot by having, a bunch of different flavors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think
taste. We never get
I
that.
like avocado and sauerkraut mashed together.
That sounds really good.
Raw.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It's really good. Mm-hmm.
Jolene, what was something that because I know we want to talk about makeup, but I have a couple more questions about the book. What have you heard from people who, I know this book is just coming out, but from the books that you've been writing on this concept?
Yeah. Well,
like what surprised you the most?
On this book, someone already said to me that this like by far surpassed their expectations. And this is someone who was like a devoted reader who couldn't wait to get the book. And she said it like surpassed what she thought it was going to be. That made me feel really good. But yeah, but from Eat Pretty, I mean, I have heard from people around the world, which still blows my mind. Like I've gotten emails from Bahrain and like Australia and just countries that I will never go to in my life. People just saying that this was such an aha moment in terms of their relationship with food, not even their skin and their beauty, but just seeing food as not your enemy anymore, but your best tool for looking and feeling your best, which was the whole aha moment for myself too. Like in terms of, I've always loved food, but finally I realized like food loves me back if I choose wisely. And I think that for so many people has shifted not only the way they look, but maybe if they were struggling with their weight, it's been a huge shift for them. It's just been kind of like, a mindset change. And I love that. I think that was part of the book, but hearing that from people and on a continual basis has been really amazing.
I love that. That like gives me chills to think like the whole world waking up.
I just wrote down that quote that you just said, Jolene. Food loves me back if I choose wisely.
Yeah,
love it.
Yes.
It's so true. I mean, I fought with my diet for so many years during all of my skin struggles. I fought with counting calories, with thinking if I skipped a meal, then I could eat double at the next meal. And that was like, I was doing something good and like just not taking time to cook for myself, doing all of the wrong things around food. And if I just knew that I could eat really as much as I wanted, but eat fresh, whole foods, and it would just have been a breath of fresh air, and I probably wouldn't have had half of the skin issues that I had. So it was all part of my journey, and I'm so happy that it resonates for other people too.
My other question is, now that you've finished Eat Pretty every day, what new questions do you have?
I'm thinking a lot about the energy of our beauty and the energy of our bodies.
Tell me more.
I've been getting really into listening and learning about, like listening to podcasts on and learning about energy healing and the whole concept of energy blockages. This is all really far out for me because I come from I want to look at food and know what the nutrients are in it and what it can do for me. And now I'm thinking about the energetic aspects of what makes us glow and what makes us feel beautiful and our mood and our emotions. And this is still something pretty new for me, but I'm pretty fascinated by it. And I think there's real stuff there.
Totally. Well, I think of like, when I think of the word beauty, I mean, it can be an abstract concept, right? Like you look at someone and they're beautiful, but usually if you, like when you feel really beautiful from like an embodied sense, there's more that goes into it than just like, oh, I feel good in my outfit, or, there's those moments where beauty, I don't know, it's an embodied, like to me, which is energetic. I find that a lot of us who like, food is like the first stop, but then like the more you get in it, you do and go down this esoteric road and it's
you get
like
weirder and weirder.
I know. I'm like, here's hoping, right? Like I hope I'm off the grid in 10 years.
So Jackie, the psychic, Allie and I have both seen this psychic in Philly.
Jackie!
Crazy Jackie. You have to knock with a quarter downstairs.
Because that's how she hears you.
You knock on the door with a quarter and she feels the vibrations and she comes downstairs and gets you. So right there, you're like, okay.
But it works. I mean, look, a lot of things that we think are normal don't really work. So I'm just saying.
But I remember in a reading, she said, just want to let you know that as you get older, you're just going to get weirder and weirder. She told me, she said, I was just going to, like, you're just going to get into more and more esoteric things. So just know that about yourself. You're just going to get weirder and weirder. I'm like, sounds about right.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
But science is kind of confirming, like, I think that we think these things are just opposite, but it's, again, what have we been looking for? It's kind of like scientific studies. Like they just found new universes. Like they're finding that there are alternative universes. Like once we start like really learning new things, then it's like this stuff has always been there. Like the gut microbiome, it's been there for billions of years. We just didn't see it until 50 years ago, right? We didn't have the capacity to. So it's like, and I don't know, other cultures, I feel like Western medicine keeps proving a lot of Eastern systems and Eastern energetics and stuff like that. So, oh my God, so is that going to be your next book?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it to write a book right now, but I did, I put a lot of mindfulness into this new book because, you are what you eat, but you're also what you believe you are, I think. And that's, getting your mind behind it, I think is also really important. And that's kind of a next level thing. I think there may be a cookbook in the works. So that may be, but I want to delve into and learn as much as I can about kind of the energy of beauty, because I think that there's just so much to learn there. And then if I can find anything that's worth sharing, I certainly will.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think even like, if you think about it, like when I shop at the farmer's market, things feel very different than when even I go to Whole Foods and know that stuff has been shipped around the world. Like there's just, I remember feeling differently when I would make the trek to the Head House Farmers Market. And it wasn't just seeing people and interacting with the farmers. It was like the food had a different energy because oftentimes it was just picked in the morning. And so I think, I mean, from what I've heard from people who are kind of pushing the edges, energy medicine's the next wave. I mean, it's already here, but I always joke that I'm kind of like a second wave pioneer. Like I got to make sure there's some land over there and then I'll know, but like, I'm not going to be the one whose like boat maybe, dies or sinks. Yeah. But then once everyone comes over and like the camp is set up, I'm like moving on to something else, but I need to know that there's some sort of, anchor there before I go. So I can't wait to hear what you discover.
Yeah. It's been a lot of self-exploration.
That's amazing. Anything in particular, like any style of energy work that you've experienced as of late that you're, just intrigued you?
I recently tried muscle testing. Have you guys ever?
Yeah.
I did that back in 2006.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going crazy here, but I also just, just thinking about the energy of things and wrapping my mind around the fact that everything has a different vibration. And like what you're saying about food having a different energy when it's fresh. I mean, I'm thinking about where we derive our energy from our environment, from our relationships, from our food, from our thoughts. I mean, all of that is going to go into what we radiate and what we give off, and that's part of our beauty. So I think that there's something that we haven't looked at and learned enough about there.
Totally. I'm thinking like when they do those studies with twins who like were separated, it's like the environment that they grow up in, like they could be same genetically, but you get different outcomes, based on the inputs. So that'll be really, really interesting. Yeah. Oh, I love that I can't wait to hear what you bring us back.
I haven't done muscle testing in a really long time, but that is an amazing thing to, for those of you who don't really know, you're just, for example, holding something in your hand, let's say like a food item
or a vial of
a supplement, and then you're someone's pushing against your arm when you're holding it, and then if your arm stays strong, then that is good food for your body. If your arm just falls limp, even though you're pushing against it, it's like all of your strength just disappears out of your body. Yeah. So bizarre.
Quite weird.
It's so strange. Yeah.
It is, but you look back at science. I mean, they used to do lobotomies, like it's like what they used to think was normal though. You know what I mean? Like they probably would have thought this stuff is weird. So
normal's it's like, whatever you make of it, right? There's no normal.
Well, I also think, look, I really love science. I'm curious about science, and some of the most closed-minded people are scientists. Like they're not like science is a continuing quest for knowledge. It's like, okay, here's where we are now and here's what we understand. But a lot of people, and we're human, we all have our own confirmation biases. So often we don't want to be open to something that disproves what we've just spent the past 30 years of our lives. I mean, I would be in that camp. I'd be like, no. So makeup questions. What do you want to know, Juliet?
Everything. No. I don't wear a lot of makeup anymore because it doesn't really make sense for my job with how much I sweat.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate makeup, and it makes me feel beautiful. And I do like to put makeup on the weekends in particular, at least 1 or 2 days of the week. And I've gone into using more natural products, but I think for those listeners out there, it's a subject that not a lot of people know or are aware of. And just like we're talking about environmental factors and your cleaning products and your air quality, that can be very overwhelming to people. So then to add in like, okay, all the makeup and lotion and shampoo and conditioner and everything that you're putting on your body is seeping into your body, and there's an outcome to that.
It's a cancer lather. I'm just kidding.
Ooh, okay. Lather it up. Yeah. So I don't know where you want, if, we don't have all the time in the world to talk about this, but anything that you can just give suggestions to myself and listeners out there about what to look for and what are the most important factors when it comes to makeup and, beauty products.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, well, first of all, the industry has come so far in the last just 5 years. So if we were talking about this a few years ago, I would have said, yeah, there's a couple great brands out there, but there is so much out there today. And the performance level of these products is amazing. You can find things at any different price point. So we're not talking that you have to, blow your budget on clean beauty products. But when I coach my clients and everyone that I work with, whether they like it or not, gets a beauty product overhaul where we sit down and talk about their beauty products, because I think it's such an important source of how you're feeding your body. It's an alternate way of feeding your body beyond food. So we talk about, I really start with what are the top 5 products that you use the most every single day. Look at the big picture and try not to overwhelm people. And just say, what goes over the largest area of your body? What goes in those sensitive areas, like under your arms? What do you actually consume, like your lipstick and your lip balm? Those are the areas of the biggest exposure. And if you can start there, you can really reduce the amount of exposure you get day to day. And for you, Juliet, like you said, you don't wear makeup that often. So if you had an eyeliner that's not organic, like you're not going to stress about it because it's not something that you wear every single day. Eventually you might swap it, but day to day, you want to look at what is going over the greatest area of your body and be common sense about that. You know that you're absorbing the majority of those ingredients. So put your dollars toward those products.
Yeah, for sure. Like lotions, for example.
And do you find, what I loved also in Eat Pretty Every Day is you talked about, like, with natural deodorants, like some will work for some people, some will work for others based on your bacteria and your pH. I never thought of that.
It's like a deodorant commercial. We all have different pHs, ladies. And like my favorite deodorant might not be the one that works the best for you. So try a couple. And I don't know if you name names of brands or stores on your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I always recommend Whole Foods because they have that amazing guarantee where if you save your receipt, they will take back any product that you have purchased, even if you've used the whole thing and it doesn't work the way you want it to. So go buy 3 different deodorants from Whole Foods and, road test them and find the one that you love. And
I never abuse that or even use that, and I should.
Yeah. And I don't think it's not even abusing it if you are going to find a product that you love and you're going to go back and buy it again and again because it works for you, rather than buying a whole bunch of different ones and throwing them out and being unhappy and then never shopping at Whole Foods again because you gave up on natural products,
But I just want to be clear, because not every product at Whole Foods is like an approved product, right? And I think that sometimes, even myself, I'm like, I'm at Whole Foods, so everything here probably doesn't have lauryl sulfate or doesn't have, doesn't have parabens, but that doesn't necessarily, there are certain things that they definitely don't have, but
they have some degree of vetting. They have their own in-store standard, which I would say is higher than any other major store that I can think of beyond, beauty boutiques themselves. So they do a great job. I think as a consumer, you always have to be making the choice about what's best for you. So you need to start turning over those labels and looking at what's in products and getting familiar with the ingredients. And like you said earlier, can you recognize some of them, if not most of the products in there?
Do you have a resource or anything on your website?
Your website's amazing.
Yeah. Or even in your first book, is this something, are there lists of ingredients that you talk about?
There actually aren't. And this is something that I basically do client to client. If you want, I can share like my top 5, or I don't know if we have time for any of that, or I can send you the info and you can post it.
Give us the top 5.
Readers.
If you don't mind.
I like, for my top 5 ingredients to avoid, I focus a lot on the ingredients that are known to be hormonally disruptive in the body. To me, I'm sure you guys can say a ton on this too and what hormone disruption does, but it opens the door and presents an opportunity for further dysfunction to happen and for disease and for, a lot of other things when you've got those hormonally disruptive ingredients. So you already mentioned parabens, but I have to say it because so many women don't realize that they have purchased products and they use them daily that still have parabens in them. And you think in the year 2016, we've all gotten rid of them, but that's not the case at all, especially drugstore products. And I, it's not because they're inherently bad, but a lot of these products I find The formulas have been around for a long time, and the packaging has been updated. So it may be the same face lotion that your mom used, but the packaging is 2016, but what's in it has not been updated to reflect our modern safety concerns. So that's the number one place where you get duped if you're not looking at the ingredient list. You've got to look to make sure you don't have those parabens in there. They act like weak estrogens in the body. There was a study that came out last fall on HER2 positive breast cancer cells, so an estrogen sensitive cancer. They were exposed to very low doses of parabens, so just the kind you get in like a body lotion. And parabens made the cancer tumors grow at 100 times the normal growth rate. So they weren't the catalyst for tumor formation, but they absolutely are getting involved in the processes of the body. And that's just a great example of why we're avoiding a lot of these ingredients that are hormonally disruptive or estrogenic. They are affecting the way the processes of the body work in a big way because they're present in our bodies.
Wow. And sunscreen is one of those things that people don't tend to think about, right? Because especially in the Northeast, I know for my clients, so they're only using it for, a couple months out of the year, or when they're going on their beach vacations, but it all counts, So,
Chemical sunscreens is definitely on my list too of top ingredients to avoid. If I were going to call out one, oxybenzone has a lot of those hormonally disruptive properties too. But we've found with some of those chemical sunscreens that they degrade when they're in the presence of sunlight. How ironic is that? And they form carcinogenic compounds on the surface of the skin in sunlight, which is obviously where you're going to be wearing them. So that's an important one too. And the EWG has the great Safe Sun Care guide that they update every single spring. It's a color-coded guide to just sunscreens. So it's super easy to go and reference and see what you're using and see what you might want to try out next year or for your next vacation.
And that's the environmentalworkinggroup.com for people listening. And they also have like a beauty grade. Like, can't you type your products in and get a score?
Yeah, the cosmetic database. You can put in a lot of brands. They're not incredibly comprehensive. They will show you for a lot of products a score, but they are really comprehensive on ingredients. So if you're looking at your face wash and you see something that you can't pronounce, you can find out that it's completely innocuous and it's derived from coconut, or you can find out that no, it's a petroleum derived ingredient and you might want to avoid it in the future. So it's a great place to go and look at ingredients that you're not sure about.
I met this guy last year, actually around this time, who was an engineer who used to work in the beauty industry. And he stopped and he's like, I will not let my daughters use anything from, because I'm like, I feel like engineers are very like, they reduce not reductionist, but like they look at things they tend to not look at things super holistically, right? Because it's kind of like measure and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, if he's thinking this, even though probably, the industry has funded studies to say this stuff is safe, but when he's really looking at what's going into it. And I was like, I was super excited that he was informed about it. We talked about it a lot, but I was like, oh my God. And to leave the industry because of, and I also think about the environmental runoff, right? Like, why is our water so polluted? Well,
you think about that with the recent ban on triclosan. So triclosan is the active ingredient in antibacterial soaps that will be phased out in 2017 based on this FDA ban. It's also another endocrine disruptor, but in the environment, it's contributing to antibiotic resistance. So it's run off into lakes and causing all kinds of crazy stuff to happen to marine life. And there's all these other all these other, negative effects that we're not realizing.
And, one of the points I want us to bring up is that it doesn't always cost more to eat healthy. I mean, organic does cost more. However, what I found in terms of beauty products and even shampoos, like when I had really bad acne, my skin was oily, my hair was oily, I had to use all these products. And as I changed my diet, the money that I invested in food meant I needed less product. I don't use a whole lot of products anymore. I mean, I don't need to shampoo my hair every day. And it doesn't get greasy the way it used to. And then
I'm the most minimalist person when it comes to products. And
awesome.
Whenever I go anywhere that, someone's washing my hair, like, what do you do? Like, what's your regimen? I have zero regimen, which is really, it's almost embarrassing, but I'm going to this is the podcast to say it, but I don't wash my face with anything.
That's
just water.
I
don't even put lotion on my body. I never lotion my body. I wash my hair once a week and I barely even use deodorant, if at all. A lot of times I just wash my underarms. Like this morning, I just washed my underarms before I went to work.
But I think that shows the conditioning we believe that we have to wash our face all the time, but why do we have to wash it all the time?
We talk about our gut microbiome, but we have a microbiome on the surface of our skin that is there and designed to protect us from bad bugs, from, inflammation, from allergenic compounds. And I think back to when I started washing my face, I think I bought like the Neutrogena, the one that smells really like
the one with the beads in it. I used to use that one, the facial wash.
And I used to put it on my skin because I thought I had to. I had perfect skin. I was probably 13 or 12. And I made this ritual out of it because I thought I was like, old enough to be putting on the Neutrogena. And I was just stripping the good oils, the good bugs, and all the amazing things off of my skin that were protecting me. And it makes me so sad to think about that.
Well, even to my point of that I don't use anything, and I'm scolded when I go to, I've had a couple facials in my life, and they're like, well, at the age you're at, this is when you really need to start with all the preventative care, and you're just going to look older, and you're going to get wrinkles, and they instill that fear in you. And then it's like, why don't you buy this?
So you have the last laugh.
$300, skincare set.
Well, and Jolene, you go into the book about wrinkle prevention, and nutrition again is your best.
Oh my gosh, totally.
And I think the point you brought up before about how this changes your relationship to food, and I think for everyone listening, the narrative in mainstream culture is like count calories, but that is not motivating. If you can connect it to something that genuinely gives you a benefit pretty quickly or over time, I mean, even, like cravings going down and your skin getting better, it's not shaming. So we think it's not going to work because we think, oh, I'll never do that. But if you really can connect this to how much, how beautiful your skin becomes, how beautiful you feel, how much more fun it is to shop, that you don't need all these products. I mean, I think that's so important. And I think that's like the beauty of the book series too. I mean, there's the book Eat Pretty Every Day, but what your message is, Jolene.
Yeah. And I think back to myself, changing and clearing my skin was the biggest motivating factor that there ever could have been, because I had been dealing with it for so long. And I wanted nothing more than to just not have to wake up and put on makeup every day. But it is true, no matter what your situation is. And I call it healthy vanity in Eat Pretty, but it's that desire to look and feel your best, whatever you define your best self as. But that is such a motivating factor for people. And we think of vanity as being negative, just being a quality that we should be embarrassed about. But this is something that is so helpful and healthy and, like you said, motivating to make these changes and make them last. So tap into that and be proud of that, and be proud of how you look and feel, because you're the one that controls that.
Yeah, making it like an agency and power thing rather than a shame.
I have to count calories. I have to be this certain size because everyone else is this size. Like, you just be, it's very empowering. Use your own vanity and do it for your own benefit and what you want to see in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, because I want to make sure that our listeners do get those top 5 ingredients, because I think we only mentioned just a couple of them.
We did too.
just rattle them off.
Yeah. So, I could really go into fragrance, but there's 2 kinds of fragrance you get in a product. It can be a natural source or it can be a synthetic source. So if you're going to find a natural fragrance, it would say on the package, fragrance from natural sources. It would say botanically derived, or even, free of synthetic fragrances. If you've got a synthetic fragrance, which is, normally mixed up in a lab, there is an ingredient added called phthalates that we already mentioned earlier, that just like parabens is extremely hormonally disruptive in the body. And fragrance is a really big source that we often forget about. Phthalates are plasticizers, so we also are getting exposure if you're microwaving your food in plastic or you're drinking out of plastic water bottles. We always hear about these kind of things, like don't do that because of the phthalate exposure, but fragrance is another huge exposure that we are forgetting about. So I think it's pretty unreasonable to say that you can get rid of every single source of fragrance in your life, but think about your air quality, air fresheners, candles, perfumes, fragrance products, fragrance detergents. Can you cut back a little bit on that, and you will cut back dramatically on your phthalate exposure? So fragrance is number 3. What did we talk about? Actually, we did do 3. We did chemical sunscreens, parabens, triclosan, fragrances, and then I would say synthetic colors, even though this is sort of a no-brainer. If you are, we have blue toothpaste, we have purple hand soap. These colors have been added They're not doing anything for our body. Aesthetically, they're there.
They just look exciting.
They look exciting and lovely, and we almost don't see them anymore because we're so used to picking up a dish detergent that's green, but these colors have been added and they have no benefit to your body. And increasingly there are animal studies that show some of these colors can be carcinogenic. So to me, it is a no-brainer. Get rid of them. And if you're shopping for natural and organic products anyway, you're going to find that they don't contain those colors just by nature of what they are. So that's another really good one to avoid. We could go into, you mentioned sulfates before, could go into things like PEGs. There's a lot that goes beyond, but if you just know, say those top 5, you can know a lot about the brands you're choosing and get some good, figure out which brands are using the ingredients that you want and create some relationships there.
Love it. Love it. And Jolene's website, you're always reviewing products, and check out jolenehart.com because you have your pulse on the trendy, but really good stuff.
Yeah.
No, I like it because I'm not a big makeup person, so I don't want to do all the research. So I'm just I'll go to Jolene's site. And if she likes that brand, then I'm just going to, pick it or something.
There's so much good stuff out there. And I mentioned Whole Foods, but even places like Target are acquiring so many more natural and organic brands. And if you shop on Target.com, you can get so many more brands that are even not in the stores.
What do you think of Beauty Counter? I feel like everyone is selling that. Are they really good?
I like Beauty Counter.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
It's a multi-level marketing.
Yeah, it's a direct sales, but you can also buy from their website. I think in terms of quality, they're not like a certified organic product, but they're so much of a better choice for women. They're on trend, beautiful, accessible. They perform really well. There's a lot to say in favor of Beauty Counter, in addition to the fact that their founder and some of their staff are really pushing for some important legislation around.
Yeah, I like that about them. They're sold at Target now, though, aren't they?
They did sort of a capsule collection. I think it's going to be maybe out of stores pretty soon. It was sort of maybe a trial or one of those little pop-up things.
Oh, okay.
But
I'm disappointed in stores like Sephora and Ulta where,
I can't even go into them. I get headaches.
They don't have really any lines, maybe one.
I like Jane Iredale. Do you like them, Jolene?
I like Jane Iredale too. I think they've both maybe recently tried to acquire a few more, and I'm always surprised when I look at their websites. They do add a couple of brands every now and then, but I wonder, is it just what they want to not acknowledge that this is happening? So maybe they won't have to change. I don't really know what their mindset is.
Yeah.
Well, you can put your head and deny it, but consumers are becoming really savvy.
They're going to ask for it. I do when I go in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This has been fantastic, Jolene. I know we've kept you more than an hour, but I could talk to you forever. And I love getting
you guys. And this is the thing I love about podcasts is that you learn so much, but I want to know about you guys too. I want to interview both of you. Maybe I need a podcast.
Well, maybe we all need to get together and have coffee when we're all in the same place at some point.
That might actually be good.
Yeah. We're actually, we need to remind, we are having an Insatiable retreat in Philadelphia. We don't have all the details yet, but if you guys are in the area, East Coast, on the first Saturday in February. So we're going to do some coaching, some working out, some revisiting the coaching, lunch, and just try to we have so many great listeners, and we want to really, our focus for 2017 is community building and getting everyone, we know so many people who we want to connect, who, could just connect people and create and have this conversation because one of my clients said, she's like, I know so much now. I feel like though I'm living on this island out by myself, I'm like, no, I know what you mean. It can be really isolating because I don't want to say the entire world is toxic, but it definitely is a matrix. And when you know a lot, it can be really hard. I feel weird ordering bottled water, out when I go, but I just can't stomach knowing what's in it. So that's a long way of saying, but we are having a retreat for Insatiable listeners, and I'll be in Philly, so we'll have to definitely get together. Okay. So and jolenehart.com, are you on social media as well?
Yep. Instagram and Twitter, I both at Jolene Hart, and it's JolenehArt. And same for the website. And Facebook is facebook.com/beautyiswellness, which is the name of my coaching company. So you can find me there. And the books are all on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Anthropology, and you can find them in a lot of places.
Yeah, and the latest book is Eat Pretty Every Day. And again, it takes this big, giant, intimidating conversation we just had and breaks it down day by day so that you can make progress. The subtitle is 365 Daily Inspirations for Nourishing Beauty Inside and Out. And it's seasonal. I love that. So no matter when you get it, you can pick up right where you are. And winter, as you pointed out in the book, is an amazing time to replenish and focus on your beauty.
I love it. I've learned to see the good in winter. I used to hate winter, and now I see the beauty in it, so to speak. It's a really good time for beauty.
I love winter food.
Oh, yeah.
I love the vegetables that you get during winter. I look forward to them. I'm sad when I can't eat winter vegetables in the summer.
Right. Yeah, there's so many good things.
I'm like, yes, Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, butternut squash. Like, I just love all those foods so much.
They are good. They are good. Thank you so much, Jolene, for stopping by.
You guys are the best. I love your work. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Insatiable podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can connect with us on social media. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Juliet Unite, and Allie at Allie M. Shapiro. M stands for Marie. Please feel free to also email us any questions. We would love to hear from all our listeners. You can reach us at Allie at allieshapiro.com and Juliet at unitefitness.com. We'll see you next time.